Our first group of works that we're going to look at is the idea of ancestry. I'm going to kind of look at this Bisa Butler piece. It's this beautiful quilted piece Bisa Butler says about her work. They are designed to communicate that her figures are of African descent and have a long, rich history behind them. The subject and celebration of everyday lives of Black individuals is also present in the work of Dean Mitchell, as well as Erin Dziedzic and Stephen Scott Young. These works also acknowledge the historical absence of recognition of the histories of communities of color, the significance of the narratives that contemporary artists of color present, and the push toward making these ancestral histories visible going forward. In their acknowledging of these individuals and artists in this exhibition, there's also a call for us to continue to have that acknowledgement going forward. This is a fantastic print of Bob Blackburn's studio. He was a prominent printmaker in New York City who actually was instrumental in helping so many artists and communities of color be able to make prints. And we actually have another work in our museum's collection that was made at that particular studio. So it kind of makes those like more universal connections as well. Kind of just looking at how the landscape changes and evolves and is colonized in a lot of ways and is taken over by different groups. I just want to point out this really interesting piece here. You know, she calls this mountain landscape, but the most prominent thing really in the mountain landscape is a giant department store right in the front here. So it kind of reminds us how industry has had such a major impact on the geography and the ecology of particular areas. This is a large-scale photograph by Laura McPhee. It was taken in Idaho, and this is a woman trying to detect the presence of wolves. At one point, wolves were an endangered animal, and so we needed to kind of create a better environment for them. At the same time, if this is a land in which someone is farming, they want to keep the wolves out. Now, not everybody is from Kansas City, but they do have a relationship in some way to Kansas City. Elizabeth Layton didn't actually take up drawing until later in her life, and I think in her mid to late 60s. You know, we all think that we have to have a certain trajectory maybe when we're wanting to be artists or, you know, wanting to be involved in some way in the art community. But to see someone who came to her practice later in life is quite refreshing. Another artist I want to point out is Virginia Jaramillo. She says that someone had said to her that if you're going to be a real artist, you have to experience the light of Paris. She's like, okay. So I'm sure it didn't turn out that easy, but she took her whole family to Paris and they traveled around. When she came back to New York, she started working with Dieudonné and making works on paper specifically. And so this is a painting, but it's actually a painting made with paper. You know, thinking about Untold Missouri, here's a story I'm unpacking right now, and this is just the beginnings of it, but in thinking about people who've had a major impact on the museum, Virginia is definitely one of those people, and she has a lot of important work here that we can probably go see whenever we want to.